And it's JAL line, so it's due to complete by 2020.
JRL, not JAL.
Sorry.
You want to
JL
go
take
Japan too much
aeroplane.
already. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, Progress with Property. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Mike.
Before we begin, it will mean a lot to us if you can like and subscribe to our channel and share our videos with your friends and family. And if you have any questions with regards to your property, please feel free to scan our QR code and contact us via WhatsApp. Thank you. What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about Tengah Garden Residences, the cheapest new launch in Singapore today.
Before we begin, here are some disclaimers. The estimated preview date for Tengah Garden Residences is on 11th April and the target booking date is 25th April. Here are some of the key information that we will touch on today. We will look at the project overview and also study the demand and supply within Tengah. And of course, it's very important to understand what's the unique selling point, and we must identify a sweet spot purchase during the launch day. And nonetheless, we will talk about the floor plan analysis together with you. Tengah is basically a very new township, and the master plan was actually launched in 2016. And for Tengah Garden Residences, this will be the first plot of private condominium launched within Tengah itself. And the developers are Hong Leong, together with Guaco Land and CSC Land. In the recent months, we have seen Hong Leong launch a few projects. We have Penreef, which is currently 97% sold, and also Lentor Central Residences is basically sold out. And Faber Residences is also 94% sold. Tengah Garden Residences is located in District 24 and is a 99-year leasehold land. There's a total of 863 units, and the size of the units range from 1-bedder to 4-bedder. We have a total of 9 blocks, and it's 16 stories high. But the residential component will only start from level 2, and the car park will be on the first floor and basement. As the land use is actually for first floor commercial, and then the second floor onwards is residential, hence we will have a commercial component within Tengah Garden Residences itself, and this commercial podium will be accessible to the public. The size of this commercial space will be about 30,000 square feet, and you will find a mixture of F&B and retail stores. The very good thing about Tengah Garden Residences is that it actually has a link bridge that will link the residences from the project all the way to Hong Kah MRT station, which is just right beside.
It's a JRL, Jurong Regional Line, that's estimated to complete by 2029.
The estimated TOP will be in September 2029. The JRL line hopefully should be ready by then as well.
There are 863 units. 1 bedroom makes up 0.7%. 2 bedroom makes up 39%. 3 bedrooms makes up 40.1%. And the biggest of the unit mix would be the 4 bedroom, which makes up only 20%.
Generally, we can tell this area definitely is for own stay.
Own stay, yes.
And we have about 40% mix, which is the 1-bedder and the 2-bedder. Here is the site plan. So as we can see here, there is actually a link bridge that brings you to the Hong Kah MRT station. Only block 19 will have kind of like the direct access to the link bridge. For all the other blocks that's within the project, we will have to come out via some of the side gates. So there are side gates along this stretch of the development, and then we have to go up to the link bridge to get to Hong Kah MRT station. So block 19 will give you the highest convenience. But however, one of the things to take note is that it's actually 18 meters away from the MRT station. Hong Leong bidded the land at about $820 per square feet PPR. The starting price for Tengah Garden Residences will be at about $1,780 per square feet. The 1-bedder starting at $980,000, and then all the way to the 4-bedder, which is at about $2.3 million. One of the interesting things to take note is that the price of the 3-bedders within Tengah Garden Residences will start slightly below $1.6 million. And if we compare this with some of the new launches that has happened earlier this year, like Nara Residences, The cheapest 3-bedroom right now is at about 1.63 million. And for Coastal Cabana, which is in Pasir Ris, and it's an EC, the cheapest 3-bedroom here is also at about 1.532 million. Actually, Tengah Garden Residences, right, is a private condominium, but pricing at a EC benchmark. This is the location map. We are right beside Hongkar MRT station, which is still under construction. And opposite the project, we will have the Tengah Central General Hospital. Hence, it's unavoidable that some of the stacks there, right, will be actually facing the hospital. Within this district, actually, we have quite a few ECs that has been launched and also sold out already. Nearest one will be Copen Grand, developed by CDL. And we also have Lumina Grand and Altura EC as well. And further down, we will also be able to find Novo Place and Auto Place ECs as well. In terms of school, we have Pioneer Primary School, which will be within 1 kilometer. And we also have ACS, which will be moving the campus into Tengah at around 2030. However, for ACS, it will be within less than 2 kilometers from Tengah Garden Residences. So actually, Copen Grand may be closer to ACS itself.
Tengah Garden Residences is going to be one of the cheapest new launch in Tengah area and possibly the whole of Singapore. The question is, with the number of EC supply that is coming in to the area and the price being as such, will it be of a value buy?
When we talk about Tengah, what comes to your mind?
Very ulu lor.
Very far,
Yeah,
no amenities,
no amenities and
鸟不生蛋的地方.
对 is damn 鸟不生蛋.
But there's a possibility that it may become the Punggol of the West, given time.
Agree?
Hence, we need to be able to understand the demand and supply within Tengah itself in order to decide whether we should buy a unit there.
It's important to mention that the Jurong Lake District and the Jurong District is actually going to go through some transformation, but that is at a macro level. How that is going to affect the Tengah area, we don't know yet, but definitely it will have some impact to the township that is going to come up. And with the Jurong regional line that is going to come up also, it's going to affect the whole transformation.
Let's try and understand currently what is the supply that is available in Tengah. Here we have tabulated for you. If you are looking for the smaller units, which is the 1 bed, 1 bath, and the 2-bedders, right? Actually, your only option is at Tengah Garden Residences because Copen Grand only has 11 units of 2-bed with study as well as bomb shelter. For the rest of the ECs, like we have mentioned, like Altura, Lumina Grand, Novo Place, as well as Auto Place, you can see that all of the sizes actually starts from a 3-bedder. Now, so currently itself, with the launch of TGR, there will be about 3,500 private units altogether within Tengah area. The question is, if we study this supply overview, you can see that even if you are a buyer of own stay, buying into the 3-bedder, right, we also need to be very careful because currently there's about 1,100 units, right, in the supply pipeline. And as you can see, for investors who have a budget limitation, you may be buying into the 1-bedder, 2-bedders, and the compact 3-bedders and 3-store is also only available in Tengah Garden.
Many investors would choose to buy the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom in almost every new launch. Hence, in the new launch market, the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom will sell out most of the time, right? Is that true? Is it also true that in the resale market, the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom will take a longer time to sell?
Yes.
Why is this so?
Most of the buyers, especially if I'm a HDB upgrader, when I want to enter into the private market, most of the time my needs will be for own stay, and definitely when it's for own stay, I will need bigger space. Hence, in the resale market, the demand for the smaller units like the 2-bedders or the 1-bedder, chances are there will be less buyers And it will take a longer time for the owners of the smaller units to exit.
Is it safe to buy a one-bedroom and a two-bedroom in Tengah Garden Residences?
Looking at the overall supply within Tengah right now, we can see that the smaller units, which is the one-bedder and the two-bedder, is only concentrated and found within Tengah Garden Residences. Buying into the smaller units within Tengah, you will definitely be the first mover because surrounding you, there are no supply at all. However, there are some key things we need to take note of because we never know when the next plot of land is going to come up for private condominiums within Tengah. Hence, timing your exit, right, is actually very, very important. But first, let us look at when you buy into an area where there is no supply of one-bedder, two-bedder, is it safe? Here, we are looking at Park Centros, one-bedder, which is within Punggol. Park Centros is directly opposite Punggol MRT station, which is very similar to Tengah Garden Residences. And you can see that surrounding, we have actually a lot of ECs, Twin Fountain, Ecopolitan, Privé, Waterwoods, and River Park and Diamore. There are only two developments, right, that offers one-bedder, which is Park Centros and River Isles. Park Centros, which is 400 meters from Punggol MRT station, right, you can see that the profits are actually rather healthy. Those owners who actually held for 3 years or 5 years, they make a profit of ranging from highest about 178,000 to the lowest of 90,000. If we look at River Isles, again, where there is surrounding you, there is no supply of one-bedder. Based on the 10-year transaction data, you can see that there's only 5 transactions for the one-bedder. So you can see that the supply is actually very limited. And in this region, the one-bedder actually did quite healthily after a span of around 5 to 10 years, ranging from 300,000 to about 150,000. Let's look at the supply of two-bedders within Punggol. Again, we have Park Centros, Flow Residence, and River Isle. The transactions within Park Centros, for those who have held for about 5 years or less, is ranging from 395,000 to about 178,000, which is actually quite a healthy number. And within River Isle, you can also see that for those sellers who own the place for 3 years to 5 years, their profit level is also sitting at about 247,000 and 260,000. Hence, for TGR, if you are an investor with a limited budget, considering the current supply that's available within Tengah itself, it may be a good opportunity for you to take advantage of the low supply to buy into Tengah area. However, it is actually very important to take note of our exit. Here are the MOP dates and the TOP dates of the various condominiums and ECs. For Tengah Garden Residences, we will be the first to TOP in Q4 2029, if there's no delay. And Copen Grand will only MOP in May 2030, followed by Altura in 2031, and Lumina Grand in 2032, Novo Place in 2034, and Auto Place in 2035. If you are a buyer of the one-bedder and the two-bedders, perhaps your window period to actually exit may be within 2029, 2031.
2031.
Yeah, there's no supply of one-bedder and two-bedder within Copen Grand. Their biggest is a 2+ study. And there are only 11 units. So hence the competition for now, right now, within Tengah itself, up till 2030 may be quite low. Understanding the timing to exit is very important. This is the palette within Pasir Ris itself. The enclave in Pasir Ris has many condominiums. We have Belisa, Envy, Livia, Elias Green, Palette, Coco Palms, and Dines. Take note that Palette TOP in 2015, and its immediate competition was from Dines, which TOP in 2017, versus Coco Palms, which TOP in 2018. So understanding how to exit, right, is very important as it actually affected their profits. Because if you look at pellet, there was 50 units of 1-beta versus DNAS and Cocoa Palms, right? When they TOP'd, the supply of the 1-beta itself, right, increased by another 295 units. So how did this affect the profits of the owners? For those who managed to exit before the DNAS and Cocoa Palms TOP, right, you can see that their profits were healthier, about 70,000 to about 50,000. Once DNAS and Cocoa Palms come into the picture, you can see that the profitability actually dropped almost by half. If you are entering into Tengah Garden Residences, please be very mindful of when you want to exit. You may have to buy as early as possible within the first phase of the launch, rather than you wait till towards the end, then you decide when to enter. When we look at Tengah, we need to understand that the master plan was launched in 2016. And one of the interesting things is that there will be 30,000 units of public housing together with 12,000 units of private housing. So just now when we show you the supply overview, right, we have less than 4,000 units available, or rather within Tengah itself, because we have to exclude Novo Place and Photo Place. So within Tengah itself, we probably have less than 3,000 units available. And if 12,000 is supposed to be the total unit count, perhaps entering into Tengah may be offering you a first mover advantage. Because if we buy into Tengah, right, everybody is saying that, oh, it's very ulu, who is going to buy from me? So it's very important to understand where our future natural demand may come from. For Tengah itself, is surrounded by 5 other township, which is Choa Chu Kang, Bukit Batok, Jurong West, Jurong East, and Bukit Panjang. Just within these 6 townships, HDB flats that go MOP in 2030, there will be about 3,400 units. And in 2031, there will be also about 3,400 units. The bulk of the MOP units, right, will actually happen in 2032, which is there will be about 17,000 units. So in total, there's about 23,000 units going to MOP.
So with 5% of upgraders from these HDB flats, what will it look like in terms of your future buyer pool?
So if let's say 5% of these owners, HDB owners, wants to upgrade, right, then we will have about 1,200 of them. Bear in mind that TGR will TOP in 2029, 2030. So by the time when TGR TOPs and then all the way till 2035, right, actually the number of private property within these 6 townships, right, that is 10 years and younger, we will only have about 12, okay? And out of the 12 of them, right, 7 will be condominiums with 3,300 units of supply, and we only have 5 ECs, which adds up to another 2,600 units of supply. Of course, the private property units, right, is only makes up to about 6,000, about 4 times lesser than the MOP HDB flats. So if we have 5% of them wanting to sell, we will have 296 units being introduced by 2035. And if we compare the ratio of this 1,200 against these 300, right, our ratio is for every 1 private property that the owner wish to sell, we may have about 4 HDB upgraders looking at their units. So this is something we should bear in mind when we enter into TGR.
How to find a sweet spot pricing in a new launch? I think this is very important to talk about because we need to first identify the unique selling point of the project, and we need to identify the developer's pricing strategy. So the first USP would be the waterfront living. Okay, so here say it's a man-made pond.
There will be a man-made pond to the near where TGR is. But basically, TGR will be overlooking Sungai Jurong. So currently, not all the blocks, right, will be able to see the waterfront view. If you really want to get a good view of that waterfront, we will be looking at block 25 and block 23. Maybe some stacks in block 27 and some stacks in 11 may be able to see pockets of the river view.
The second unique selling point of Tengah Garden Residences would be its proximity to the MRT station.
The link bridge is here on level 2, and this one will be block 19.
The third USP would be retail at your doorstep.
One thing to take note is that for Tengah Garden Residences, it's not a mixed development. The commercial space is actually sprouted around the first floor of the commercial podium. Here are some of the perspectives, and these are all accessible to the public, like we have mentioned. Okay. Now, so unlike Pinery, where the first floor is actually your mall, as in the mall part, right, of the Pinery Mall. For Tengah Garden Residences, it will be very, very different. There are only a few blocks and a few stacks which actually has the commercial element downstairs. Those that are so-called facing the waterfront, right, or rather block 11, 27, 25, they actually have no commercial elements downstairs. However, if you are at block 19, you will have a few stacks where it's commercial, block 21 as well. So there's a possibility that 15, 19, 21, 17, that the sweet spot lies here because you have the MRT, then you have the commercial space convenience.
Possibly. One thing to take note is that some blocks are really close to the MRT. So which means what? There'll be noise, right?
Yeah.
From the MRT coming and stopping and going. So the sweet spot may be at these blocks which are closer to the MRT station.
But yet you have to be able to bear with the noise.
Noise, yes. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share them with your friends and family. How to identify the different types of developer pricing, and why is this important to buyers? One of the most important developer pricing strategy will be the per floor jump. Using Liao Garden Residence, we can see that from the 11th floor to the 13th floor, the per floor jump is actually 8,000. Okay, so from the 13th floor to the 15th floor, the jump is $19,000. From 15th floor to 16th floor, it jumps to 13,000. 17 and 18 is 8,000. Because 15th floor is the mid-level, it seems like at the mid-floor onwards, they will have a higher per floor jump.
For TGR, we start from the second floor, then we go all the way up to 16th floor. So there may be a possibility that once we cross the roof or the height of the MRT station, that may be where the price jump is. And our prediction is that it may be on the 10th to the 11th floor, or basically between the 10th to the 12th floor, where once we clear the MRT tracks and the height, right, the loading for the per floor jump may increase more compared to the lower stacks.
When it comes to type 2 developers pricing strategy, we need to look at the facing and the view loading. We're going to use a couple of examples that are developed by the developers. So the first one is Liao Central Residences. When you buy into Liao Central, you're buying into the view of the Hillock Park. So the developer is definitely going to load on the facing of the park. And there's also the unblocked facing Tagore Industrial Park. So we can see that on the unblocked facing is $46,000 cheaper than the park facing. Okay, the next example we're going to use is the park facing versus the entrance facing. And you can see that the entrance facing is actually $31,000 cheaper than the park facing. The next project that we're going to use as an example would be Faber Residences, because Faber Residences has two different facing, the river facing and the AYE facing. So if you're going to buy into the AYE facing, there's definitely going to be some noise. So actually it's $34,000 cheaper when you buy into the AYE facing.
For Faber Residences, it is quite similar to Tengah Garden Residences because for Tengah, instead of having the expressway noise, right, we have the MRT noise. If the price difference between a block or a stack that's furthest away from the MRT versus those that's very near to the MRT, right, is less than 2%, actually it might be worthwhile to consider the stacks that's furthest away from the MRT station. However, we need to also be very wary that if we are buying, for example, already higher floor, there's per floor jump, right? Then loading, and then if we buy into the facing, there's another facing loading. The next worry, or rather the understanding that we need to understand, is that whether this developer, right, will load on the unit type that you purchased. Here we are using Penreef. For Penreef itself, there is not much of a view per se. But what happens is that you can see that across all the unit types, right, 3-bedroom, which is the large one, is actually about $2,770 per square feet versus a smaller 3-bedder is only at about $2,680 per square feet. When you go into the 4-bedder, right, the PSF, is actually even higher. Hence, for TGR, if you are buying something that is further away from the MRT noise, and you want to clear the MRT height, so you have the reduced noise, where there may be some loading, per floor jump already loading, then your view, you are facing the waterfront, there's loading, plus you are buying the bigger unit type. Even if it's the bigger, slightly bigger 3-bedder, there may be at least minimally 3 tiers of loading already.
And we did talk about this in our last video. I will paste the link in the description. You can click on the link to check out our video on Vela Bay, where we talk about the 3-tier pricing.
If you are looking at Tengah Garden Residences, you will have some stacks which is facing the hospital. Then definitely you have a few blocks which can see the Sungai Jurong. But at the same time, you must also remember that there's the MRT track that is within your view. Like what Mike has mentioned, facing hospital, facing MRT track, facing the waterfront. Then at the same time, you have pockets of commercial units available downstairs. The expensive blocks will be in Block 25 and Block 23 because you get the immediate waterfront view. 27 and 11, the stacks here may be also more expensive because the balcony, especially for example, stack 53, right, you can actually see the riverfront view as well.
The possible sweet spot could be here, 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 and here. But we will only know on the day of launch day when the price is out.
But because the project itself is already very close to MRT station, right, actually it will be more recommended that we buy the units that are furthest away from the train station.
It's a few minutes walk only. Right?
Yeah, correct. To safeguard our exit next time for the demand.
I would buy away from the MRT station.
Yeah, as far away as possible and hopefully facing the waterfront.
Again, it depends on your queue number on the day. So, we come down to the floor plan analysis of Tengah Garden Residences. So, for the 1-bedroom, there are 2 types of 1-bedroom. One is the 1A, which is 484 square feet and 506 square feet. So these two only makes up 6 units in the whole entire development.
The main difference is actually the kitchen, dining, and the living area here, right? Is 3 meters squares more than the type 1A1. For the 2-bedders, we actually have 3 types altogether, and we have the 2+ study.
So the type 2A is a 2-bed, 1-bath. It has a longer corridor and a common bedroom bigger by 1 square meter compared to the type 2B, which is a 2-bed, 2-bath. The next one would be the 2-bed premium, the type 2C versus the 2-bed plus study. So the 2-bed plus study has a longer corridor, a bigger common bath, and additional study area.
When we buy into this 2-bed plus study, it's good to understand how Koppen Grand is, because Koppen Grand's 2-bed plus study actually comes with a bomb shelter as well. So if the 11 units are also out for sale, right, then here for the 2-bed plus study, there's about 100 units. We need to see where the supply may be coming from, definitely coming from TGR. But at the same time, Koppen Grand will be actually quite a very strong competitor, I must say.
Let's talk about the 3-bedroom units. The smallest 3-bedroom is 797 square feet, and it has a longer corridor space, open kitchen concept, no window in the kitchen, and it's a dumbbell layout. So dumbbell layout where the living room cuts across the bedrooms. So we look at the next 3-bedroom, which is the 818 square feet. it has a shorter corridor.
For both the 797 square feet and 818 square feet, you have windows in all the bathrooms. It's just that for the 797 square feet, the kitchen, you can actually enclose it, but it's just that there's no window. Versus the slightly bigger compact 3-bedder, the kitchen has a window and is enclosable as well.
So comparing the 818 square feet to the 829 square feet 3-bedroom, the only difference is the corridor length. So the 829 square feet has a slightly longer corridor.
Between these two, which one will you buy?
I'll buy 818.
Because actually you can't really tell the difference, right? They have almost
it's
the
just,
same features.
You're just paying a little bit more for the corridor space.
But we of course need to look at the distribution of the stacks
Correct.
in order to find the best value buy.
Now let's compare the 3-bedroom versus the 3+ storeroom. So the 3-bedroom has a shorter corridor, smaller living and dining area, a smaller kitchen, and it has no storeroom. So the 904 square feet, which is the 3D, has a store here, 3 square meter. And it has a longer corridor, bigger living, bigger dining, bigger kitchen as well, and it comes with an additional storeroom. So let's compare the 3-bedroom with storeroom versus the 3-bedroom with yard. What's the difference? The difference here is the shorter corridor, smaller kitchen, and there's an additional storeroom with no yard. But the 1033 square feet 3-bedroom with yard has a yard space and a bomb shelter and an additional WC.
Due to the difference in the sizes, it's almost about 100 square feet. So if 100 square feet I times on the average, let's say it's about 2,000 per square feet, right? The difference between these two unit types is about minimally 200K difference. Personally, if you have a budget constraint, then I would recommend taking the 904 square feet because with the harmonization ruling, right, actually we need to remember that the thickness of the wall of the bomb shelter, right, is actually calculated within your floor area. Hence, if you still need storage space but you have a budget to observe, then having the store actually is just as good.
So one thing to take note also is this thing that marks X here. So this is the size of the beam. So let's compare the 3-bedroom with yard. There are 3 units, the 3E, 3F, and 3G. The 3E is 969 square feet. The 3F unit is 980 square feet. The 3G is 990 square feet. So what's the difference here? The difference here is the corridor way. The 969 square feet is actually shorter corridor way. The 980 and the 990 almost the same size visually. And it comes with a 4 square meter bomb shelter for all these 3 unit type. Now let's compare the 3 other 3-bed with yard, which is a 3H, 3I, and 3J. The 3I is 1,012 square feet. The 3I is similar. 3J is 1,023 square feet. Yeah, the difference here is the 3H has a shorter corridor. 3I also has a shorter corridor. But the 3J has a slightly longer corridor. Most of it are pretty similar.
The only main difference to highlight is actually the positioning of the walk-in wardrobe, which is actually very nice to have in the 3-bedder market, because usually walk-in wardrobe is more reserved for the 4-bedder size onwards. Because we have so many types of 3-bed with yard, right? It's actually very important, and for the fact that their size doesn't vary by a lot. So it's very important to actually look across all these 3-bed with yards that you wish to purchase, and also at the same time compare with the surrounding EC supplies of 3-bedder with bomb shelter and yard. Because currently right now as it is, right, there is about 1,100 units within.
Let's look at the 4-bedroom, 4A compared to the 4B. The 4A has a longer corridor, okay, and the 4C has a shorter corridor compared to 4D. And the rest are pretty much almost quite similar. Next, we're going to talk about the 4-bedroom premium. And the 4E is a SHOWFLAT unit. It's 1,259 square feet. and the 4F is 1249 square feet, similar to 4G. So the difference here is the 4E has a longer corridor, and 4F and 4G has a shorter corridor. And the rest are pretty much almost the same.
One thing very nice about the layouts across the board, right, is that if you enter into the house, despite of the fact that there's a long corridor, when you look into the corridors that is leading you into the bedroom, right, a majority of them don't have the wardrobe to block your view of sight, which means that it will give you a feeling that the master bedroom is actually very, very spacious.
We're going to compare next the 4-bedroom versus the 4-bed premium. The difference is living area is bigger, and there's a bigger kitchen and bigger yard, and the walk-in space is the walk-in wardrobe is also bigger, and bigger master bath. So everything's bigger for the 1259 square feet.
We have come to the end of our video analysis for Tengah Garden Residences. Please feel free to scan our QR code and reach out to us if you have any questions with regards to this project or any of the new launches that's coming up, or even in the post-launch market. And if you have any queries about your current property, please feel free to contact us and let us know. And if you have any comments for this property analysis, feel free to write it down in the comments segment so that we can answer your questions as well. See you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye-bye.